Hello, hello. Hi, guys. Welcome. Hi, Astrea. You can send me the request to join and I'll accept. Yeah. Hey, everyone. Well, I'm seeing all our regulars. Hi, guys. How are you? All right. Hi, Astrea. How are you?
Good. Actually, my name is pronounced Astrea, and you're Danielle, right?
I am.
Okay.
I'm glad that you corrected me because your name is beautiful. So sorry
It's
for
Greek,
butchering it.
so if you ever mess it up, you could say it's all Greek to
Yeah, I
me.
like it. It's very beautiful. Sounds like star. Is that what it means?
Yeah, it's the goddess of hope for humanity, and after a while, she left because she decided to join the other gods. To put
Okay.
it nicely.
I love that.
Thank
Beautiful.
you. It's so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see that people are just joining and we're also going to record it. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to watch the replay as well.
Okay.
So I have been having so much fun because I've got this book and this and this one.
Yes.
So
I love
the only one I'm lacking physically right now is Air Magic, but I'll have to get that one next.
Yeah, we'll make arrangements.
Yeah, so for everybody that is on the live, if you're new here, I'm Danielle. I'm co-owner of Amityville Apothecary, and with me is Astrea Taylor, and she is an author with Llewellyn and also other publications. And I've learned a lot about you through your bio and what I've read. Like you're a fire dancer, which I think is so cool.
Yeah, it's
And
really fun too.
I can only imagine. I'll ask you some questions about that. And you know what? Why don't you tell a little bit about your bio since you're here? I don't need to tell about you.
Yeah, sure. So I identified as a witch when I was 17, 18, and that was a long time ago because I'm 47 now. I guess I have an anniversary. I started going to pagan festivals a long time ago when I was in my early 20s. And I just found them so wonderful. I just wanted to learn everything that I could. And it was wonderful and magical. I had a magical upbringing, magical time. I just think like the early witchling years are so
Yeah.
special. So I want to encourage everyone out there to take advantage of all the resources that are there for you. Like get in touch with everything that you feel, what you vibe with.
Yeah.
And then, after a few years, I started going to the pagan festivals again after grad school, and I realized like I wasn't getting as much, and I was like, oh, this means it's my turn to like teach and to share what I know. And I was surprised to find that a lot of people, there wasn't a really good book about intuitive witchcraft. There was some material, but I didn't really vibe with it.
Yeah.
And so I started blogging with Pathos Pagan in 2017, and then I sent in the manuscript proposal to Llewellyn in 2018, and it was published in 2020. And like you said, 4 books later, here we are with Inspiring Creativity Through Magick.
Yeah.
And I have to say, this is one of my favorite books. It's probably my #1 favorite book. And just because it comes from my heart.
Mm-hmm.
There, is some teaching out there about magical practices with your arts, but I haven't seen anything like this. And I really wanted to share my experience with my creative spirit because I feel like from what I've read, I kind of am an experiential witch. Like I have to experience it, and then I go back and read things sometimes, and it's like, oh, like other people are experiencing this too.
Yeah.
It's pretty validating. That's kind of like the story of that book, and I found so many other artists who had worked with creative spirits who had this like sensation of them, and so it was just a wonderful thing to get to write this book.
I think it's so cool. I couldn't help but feel we're kindred spirits. Like the book Intuitive Witchcraft articulates and verbalizes how I approach my practice. And, even from when we were young, the similarity of spending time in nature and finding your rewilding. And, the Christmas tree is behind me because I was raised Irish Catholic, but you know, even all of the parts that never fit with traditional like confines, I would take the parts that always resonated with me and leave the rest. And that relates to, you know, my spiritual practice, my religious practice, everything, and my artistic, because I also grew up performing and acting similar to you.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and Dina, my business partner, she also is very extraordinarily musically inclined, and I've always been very artistic. So this book, for those of you on the live, it's great. And what I like is how you suggest the best way to work with this book is to read it thoroughly from start to finish, because it goes over the entire creative process. And then as you're formulating and birthing your idea, you can check in and use it as a guide. So I think it's a beautiful guide to help someone through the entire inception to completion and then releasing it to the world. And the aftermath of that, how people receive your work, and how you can go into you know, the period after that and then create again. But I'm very grateful that you created this book, because I have a few projects brewing that I've been procrastinating. So I can't help but feel like there's nothing, this is definitely serendipitous, I should say.
That's so relatable too. I think procrastination is part of the cycle for many of us, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you start this? Because Intuitive Witchcraft, and we could talk about all of the books. We sell all 3 of these at the shop. And for those of you on the live, there are book plates that Astrea signed. So you will get signed copies of these books. You know, these are very different. And you co-writing modern witchcraft with the Greek gods, this is entirely different. So, this one precedes the Inspiring Creativity with Magic. So what inspired this? You just said, I'm going to write about how I interpret my practice, or?
It's a funny story behind that. I had written part of the proposal to Llewellyn and had never written anything. I never met them, never pitched to them or anything. And I was like, I don't know. Do people really need this book out there in the world? And
yes,
all of a sudden,
they do.
Well, a couple of funny things happened. In 2018, I went to a pagan spirit gathering, and there was some guy there who was teaching this workshop, and I thought it was about intuitive witchcraft, and I was like, yeah, we vibe, whatever. But no, he was saying it's basically evil. It's paramount to practicing surgery as an unlicensed surgeon, to do magic that's outside of a coven or a tradition. And I said, what? WTF?
Yeah.
First of all. And he was writing a book, and I was like, I have to, you know, put something out there that shows that intuitive witches have integrity, that we come from a source of, you know, honesty, virtue. It's not just like, we're just like, whatever, you know, and even if you do that, that's okay. But, he was really demonizing us, and I feel like that kind of judgment is not necessary in the witchcraft community. It's all over. I see it every day, not every day, but like even, you know, recently I see it, and it's a huge bummer because these people, it seems like they're kind of insecure and unconfident in their own ability to make their own magic. Yeah. And that's what I really wanted to have give everyone the ability to do, is make their own magic. And I even did like a layout, like a fill in the blanks, you know, like do this, like it was an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah. If you're a nerd, you're gonna love it.
Well, I think it's great the way that you formatted it, and like there's areas that you can there's a lot that you can ponder upon and journal upon. But you know, for me, I always, when I was a kid, I definitely identified with the nature, connecting with the nature. But you know, some people definitely gravitate towards a more traditional sense of witchcraft,
and that's okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
And owning a metaphysical shop over the past 5 years, we see and we cater to every which way that you choose to personalize your practice.
Yes.
But for me, I never identified as like, I'm a witch. Like that never felt right for me personally, but everyone else, I'm like, cool, that's you, you do you. But I'm a Reiki master.
Mm-hmm.
I have always been into astrology and working with Mother Nature and like climbing trees and, you know, working with crystals. Whereas Dina has been more sound bowl healing and crystal healing. And then the energy practice on top, plus her psychic intuitive abilities. So like it's different for everybody. I would definitely say like shamanism feeds into like the natural gravitation of things, but your concept of reminding people like we are all energy, and energy can either be transmuted or created. It's just and the varying levels of the subtle energies that resonates so much with me because I'm definitely clairsentient, I'm claircognizant. So when I was reading this, I was like, yes, this articulates my practice in a way that I don't often see in books. So thank you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any one way. I think everybody has their own way of practicing, and we need to be more inclusive. And it's any combination of what feels right to you. And again, that all comes down to your inner guidance, right?
Yeah. Until the witch police comes and arrests me, I will maintain that everyone can do their own way, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
Yeah, we got to stick together instead of try to like shame or define or put anyone in boxes.
Exactly. And you know, the first title I ever used, it was energy worker. It was, I do energy work is what I said instead of magic too. Because really it was so energetic to me. I felt energy. I could see energy sometimes, you know, it's just on a basic level. And my book does, the Intuitive Witchcraft goes over a lot of the basics and kind of from an energetic standpoint, which a lot of people have said is really refreshing. And I go back to basics all the time because, you know, it's like you can spiral up and then the basics mean something new and different to you and different powers and abilities you can kind of glean from them. So that's one of my favorite things about that book is just encouraging people to trust themselves. I think it really eradicates imposter witch syndrome too, which is so prevalent in our community, and I'm so sad about that. I really, if there's one thing I want to do in this world, in this lifetime, I want to eradicate imposter witch syndrome by encouraging people to, you know, listen to themselves, listen to their intuition, because everyone has their own inner authority and it knows things.
Absolutely. I just had a conversation with a customer of ours who was in the shop yesterday. She bought your book. She was gravitating towards it. And she said, she's like, you know, I can't help but sometimes feel like an imposter despite all of my experience. And I go, oh my God. And I open it right to the first page. I go, she talks about that. It was just, you know, there's no coincidences, but it talks about like all different practices of raising your vibration and deepening your practice and enhancing that and using it like a muscle or a tool, that the more you practice and the more you dedicate to it, the stronger your skill set and the toolbox is going to become more robust.
Exactly.
So,
and releasing judgments too.
Yeah.
I think people judge themselves too harshly. I mean, if you did something wrong, yes, okay, judge yourself, you know, do whatever you need to do to get right. But if you didn't do anything wrong, then stop judging yourself so harshly. Like people just think bad things are going to happen if something good happens. And I think that we need to kind of like look for the good in life as well. So it's just one of those things. I think it's a hangover from the, you know, over culture, and you know, we'll keep working on it, but yeah,
and giving yourself permission that not everything's gonna, how can you know how to do something that you've never done before? So that's where the intuition comes. You got to try things and see how it feels and see how the results are. And then you also mentioned keeping a journal or a grimoire or a shadow book of what works, what doesn't work, what your impressions were.
Which is kind of like the scientific method too, and I am a scientist, so that comes up too.
So creative process.
Yes,
I love that. You talked about, I took notes. So what do we say? I really liked how you talk about the different elements and how you break it down. So for those of you on the joining us, she breaks it into air, which focuses on vision and inspiration, fire, passion and courage, water, balance and flow, and then earth, growth and perseverance, of like grounding those ideas and concepts into our experience. And then casting the circle, bringing it all together and closing the loop. Beautiful. And then the second part of the book is really refining and releasing the art into the world. So it's like just so organized. You break it down so beautifully.
Thank you.
And but it's so robust in content and ideas for however or whatever type of art you're going to create. So do you want to talk a little bit about how you came about that? Because I think it's great and it's applicable to writing a book or creative performance or, you know, mixed media art. So
yeah, all of it. Basically, this book, Inspiring Creativity Through Magick, encourages you to make a ritual for your creativity, to bring out the creative spirit, to receive inspiration. And to do that, you use the basic principles of the elements and you use the correspondences of them as well when you create. And so I think that there are creative correspondences for each element. And again, like I am an experimental witch, and like this all came together because I was experiencing it and I was like, oh, this works. And I was like, oh, and now I have a creative spirit as well. It didn't happen quite like that. But over time, like I recognized there was a spirit who was giving me inspiration. And so, you know, I noticed that it appeared when I was wearing earbuds, which is associated with the element of air, music, you know, that tuned me into the energy of my project. I was burning incense sometimes, or I was at least cleansing my area where I was creating. And I would have a candle going too, to kind of like represent the energy I'm putting out. Is putting out light, I'm putting out energy as well. And then I would have also the element of water in the form of a beverage. You know, we all have to stay hydrated, but it's important. But it also, that fuels your creativity. And it's the element of water, obviously. And then I also noticed, you know, there were some other things that helped me, like the elements or the stone sodalite. It is a creative expression kind of stone. And so with that combination, and, you know, plus or minus a few, I was really able to tap into my creativity. I brought on the flow state, and that's when the creative spirit came. So that's what the first part of the book is all about. It's helping you reach that point. And really, you know, the one that was the most challenging to me was the element of earth, because I'm an air sign. I don't know about you.
I was just going to ask what, yes, I am. I'm a Libra.
Oh, me too.
And
yeah.
oh, yay, Libras. When's your birthday?
October 2nd.
Oh, okay. Dina and I share the same birthday, and ours is September 30th.
I wish it was the same. Happy belated.
You too. You too. Yeah. So I'm Libra sun, Leo moon, and Sag rising.
Oh, I can see the fire. A little bit.
A lot of fire. But I lack earth also.
Yeah, I have earth, but it's, you know, it's I have Mercury in Virgo in the 12th house. So it's very mystical. It's like, it's almost like having Mercury in Pisces in a way.
Yeah.
I'm more detail oriented, I guess. But so it's very not healthy for, it's not like really conducive for grounding. It's really a spiritual kind of communication vibe. And so getting my butt in the chair was one of the things that helped me show up and persevere. And, you know, experience those growth moments because I showed up in my body, in my chair, you know, or if I were dancing, you know, like I would show up in the practice studio with my tools, you know, whatever I was doing, just showing up is one of the most important things. But showing up with your magical tools with you is even better.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think that's cool. Talk a little bit about the term egregore.
Yes.
Am I pronouncing it properly?
Yes, yes. I love the egregore. So the egregore is an amazing concept. It's basically the spirit of an idea. And we all have, there are egregores everywhere. And, you know, they affect us. We affect it, them, like when we think about them. And one of the best ones I know of is like the egregore of Starbucks coffee. Like you either love it or you hate it. And like you're a dedicated person to it. And like that coffee, that aroma, like you go into the Starbucks stores, they're all the same. They all have the same kind of output. That is a very like strict, narrow egregore. They define it and we interpret it. And like there's about this much room for a variation.
Nice.
And you know, the idea of something, it doesn't have to be a physical thing or a product. The idea of you know, the egregore of twin flames, people have reactions to that as well. The egregore of the feeling of love or peace, you know, that, or war, you know, that affects us all, you know, on deep, really deep level. And so when you're an artist and you're creating stuff and you're bringing new ideas and forms of art to life, you are bringing new egregores into the world. Your art project is an egregore. So it's just a personal egregore between you and it, or if it's a group, like that group and it, and you're all contributing to what it is, what it means, what it looks like, what it feels like, what its vibe is, like how it is it playful, is it sad, is it supportive, you know, what does it look like, what does it sound like, that kind of stuff. So it's really important to pay attention to the spirit of your art as you're making it. However, I think this is where a lot of people get confused, is they pay too much attention to that before it's finished. And I really recommend, it's really important to finish a rough draft of your art from like start to finish. If it's like 12 paintings for a gallery show, just do a rough sketch of all 12. So you kind of know what you're working with, because what happens is a lot of people want to edit the egregore, edit your art before you know what the whole picture looks like. And so they can be kind of like detailing all the head of the egregore, like how it looks, like its mane, its eyes, its sparkly scales or whatever, you know. And then they don't even know if it has a tail or hind legs,
Right.
or if it's a fish tail or a horse tail or what, you know, what's going on.
Yeah.
So really getting to know what your art, like the energy of your art, what it's all about, and then kind of editing it from there. And that's when you hear artists talk about filling out the skeleton, fleshing out the skeleton. You know, it's kind of like filling it out, fleshing it up, working on the details. And that has been a really helpful tip for me as well, because I used to be one of those people who edited my first draft, my first chapter, I mean, over and over and over. And I didn't ever get anywhere with that book, because I also write fiction as well.
Right. I thought that that was very helpful for you to outline it, because you said that's featured in part 2 of the book. So the whole first part, focusing on the elements and the creation of it, is producing the first draft of the whole of whatever you're creating. So in my case, if it's a book, it's writing the entirety of it. But like, I know I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to have to edit, I'm going to have to wordsmith, I'm going to have to refine. Does it convey the humor I may be looking for, or is it too dry, or is it, and then the creative personality is the egregore. Does it match, or does it need tweaking or refinement? So I think that that's really wise advice for the creator, because you get most of it done, and then the rest is like, does it match the personality that it really requires?
Yeah.
So it's more fine tuning. That was good.
So important. Thank you. And like all artists edits, everyone like looks at a video of how the performance looks and was like, oh, that move doesn't look how I thought it looked. I'm going to edit that. You know, I'm going to change that. And it's really good, especially to get outside feedback as well. They're like, this is how I interpret your art. This is how the egregore spoke to me. And then, you know, part of that editing process, you're bringing the egregore of your art to life. There's a magical process happening here, because I would read my own book, my own fiction book, and parts of it, I would start to cry. Like, I was like, there's something bigger than me happening here. Right. And I love it, but it's also confusing because I know what happens. I wrote the words, but the egregore can move people like that. It can excite people. It can make people like have feelings and things like that. So that's when you know you're really getting somewhere.
It's so cool. Now talk about the courage required to birth something of yours so personal and then release it to the world and try to separate critics of your art versus
Mhm.
how to not internalize. Because as we create, we're putting our magic into something, and it's scary and courageous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a personal decision. You don't have to share your art if you don't want to.
Mhm.
But I think sharing our art really helps other artists. It helps them like kind of it helps us get our art out in the world. It helps it have some kind of showcase and just like gives us some kind of closure with it too. You don't have to wonder like, what if I ever shared it with the world? But there will always be critics. There will always be someone who is not into your work. And I use the metaphor of ice cream because my favorite is like the decadent chocolate ice cream,
Yep.
of course.
Yeah.
But I have some friends who don't like chocolate, or they would prefer like a lemon sorbet.
Right.
That's great for them. They're not my ice cream people. So my chocolate is never going to satisfy their lemon taste
Right.
buds, and that's okay. We're all different, not everyone's going to like everything. Make it for your people.
Yeah.
And even if Brene Brown has this great quote that it's not the critic who is the important person out there in the world. It's the person who's out in the fields doing the work in the gladiatorial stand, or however she puts it, who is brave enough to show up and to show the process off and to show the result off, that is actually the most courageous. And I'm taking that back. It's actually Teddy Roosevelt who said that, but she popularized that quote.
Yeah. I love Brene Brown. She's
Yeah,
amazing, and she
she's
does
so
quote it.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that really inspired me to share my work, and I'm glad she shared that quote because it is so inspiring. You are courageous, and I think that it goes back to just having a network of people who maybe get some feedback before you put it out there if it's your first time. Have a partner you're working with. Like I have an editor for my book.
Yeah.
Books for Llewellyn, and it's really helpful. So I got beta feedback on performances and my pottery that I was doing, my poetry when I was in a poetry class, and my fiction books as well, fire dancing. We would be like, oh, okay, let's make this tweak, let's make this change. And that's so helpful because you really want your performance or your art to speak the message that you want. And so the air chapter does go into like, what is your message? What do you love? What do you want to put out there in the world? Like, let's focus on that. Get a vision for yourself and like help get you the tools you need so you can succeed.
I think this is so important additionally because I think all of us have so many creative gifts that we're just innately born with. So some people that may be singing, some may be musically inclined with instruments, some with dance. So I was raised doing singing and dancing, and I always like to do like arts and crafts type stuff. And that varies for different people, but I think it's extraordinarily cathartic to do that. And that's when you just stop using your logical mind and start using your creative mind. Your vibration raises, you're in the flow of things, your emotions are running, and you're just pouring your soul without judgment into that. And I know singing in particular, like that would just take me out of my own self. So like you said, it doesn't always have to be shared publicly. It can be just a private practice as well. But, that's what I love about the beginning part, how you incorporated all the different correspondences with air and with earth and with fire, and practices that you can utilize for each element. So that's really a very powerful tool that you incorporated for people from beginner level to more experienced levels.
Yeah, thanks. And really, I think it's all about the creative spirit. And in the book, I say you can call it anything, however you want to believe about it. Like for fire dancing, we work with deity spirits. I know like the Shaker painters use their ancestors and their beloved dead, to paraphrase. But I use something that might look more like a witch's familiar for my writing process, because it is a little animalistic. It's definitely a spirit, and it helps me. It helps me find the words. It helps me give life to my creations, my ideas.
That's great. So I just want to shift gears because we do sell the other books. How did you come about partnering with Jason Mackey on Mankey about the Greek gods? Because we do work a lot with the deities, and we support all the working with deities at our shop. I think it's great. Like Demeter is near and dear to my heart. Persephone and Hecate are very popular with our consumers. But this is a great book if any of you want to know the history or stories of the different Greek gods, which I think lacks in a lot of the metaphysical literature. So tell me about your experience with this.
Well, the first conversation that Jason and I ever had was about how there's not a book like that. There's not a book written by pagans for pagans about the whole pantheon in ancient Greece. And he and I both have beautiful relationships with the deities we love the most. We had them before we met in 2017. And so we just been kicking that idea around for a while. And when the pandemic hit, we said, let's do it. Let's write this book. And one thing that we agreed upon, which was, I think, really powerful, makes this book really special, is that we got 22 different passage authors to write personal gnosis stories, how they perceive these deities, which is so powerful. And that a lot of that gets lost to the centuries. We may be writers who record our thoughts, but people who aren't writers, who just have this relationship with the deity, that's so important too. And they have insights to share too. And he and I didn't partake in all of the deities, honoring and, whatever magic with them. So it was important to get somebody who knew, I think, just so we're not, going on like 2 months experience. Like, I think she's like this, Yeah. So each chapter about the gods has the history and the culture and the myth and the lore and the rituals and just everything that happened in ancient Greece. And then there's a suggested passage like with magical activities like rituals, spells, whatnot. And then there's the personal insights, personal gnosis passage from those people who know them the best. And sometimes that is me and Jason, and sometimes more often that's other people.
I think it's great. You give very simple suggestions on how like practices and materials in working with these deities and gods. And I think it's very easy to, you can focus on all of them, or you can just focus on a few of them at a time. And there's very simple insight to them. And I like the practices that you incorporate for like how to better deepen your relationship and working with them.
Yeah, thanks. And I feel like there was a lot of misinformation about some deities as well. And some things we will never know. That's a big question mark. And we leave it at that. We don't make conclusions about that. But presenting like the past that is so sacred to us, and these deities who have definitely taken on different roles throughout the millennia. I felt like it was so important to just like give them that voice, like to give them that book. And so we dedicated the book to the gods as well.
I think that's awesome. Now, one of the things that I know that you said has enhanced or strengthened your own personal practice is you would go to the different festivals around the country, and that you also speak and present at different festivals. So for the folks who are joining us on the live, like talk a little bit about that. And like, people ask us like, what should I do? Where should I go? But the festival circuit, like, tell us about your experience and what you would suggest to our people.
Yeah, so there are a lot of pagan and witch festivals out there, and they're so exciting. They're so much fun. I highly suggest you like look and see what's around your area. I know there's some, in Southwest Ohio or Southeast Ohio near Athens, like Minnesota. There's one in Georgia, I believe, in Florida. And so, I mean, there's some across the world and across, the United States as well. But really, these are places you can go to where you can get information firsthand from somebody. And that's how I learned most of my stuff. I was in undergrad college at the time, and I was taking a very heavy course load. So this would be my vacation. I would save up all year, go to a week-long camping fest, and just learn from all these people and soak it all in and just I think I never tried to miss like a workshop. I think I missed a couple each time, but you know, I was one of those nerds there. And it's so fun to learn stuff. You can learn all kinds of things, and the opportunities, like some of the options are like you have like 6 to 10 options. Like, how do you pick? You know, you have to like use your intuition, I guess. But and so there are camping festivals, and then there are also hotel festivals. And I feel like there's a trade-off with either one. Like the hotel ones, yes, there are showers, there are beds. You're not going to get rained on, probably. But the camping ones, you're in nature. You know, it's so cool to be that close. And there might be a drum circle and a fire. Who knows, right? So I highly recommend looking into those because they are so great. And you can meet some of your favorite authors that way too. Bring your books. They will sign them. They don't care if you bought them through them or through somebody else. You know, and you know, you get to hang out with them maybe too. Who knows? It's just such a special thing, and I really love that I had that when I was in my formative years, because I'll tell you the story of my first pagan gathering ever.
Yeah.
I was nervous, you know, driving in. My friends had been there, and as soon as we got past registration, we're going along the road in the van. And this woman, like this old topless woman, she had like nipple rings and like ribbons, and she's like, "Welcome home." And, and I remember being like, "I love this place. I never want to leave. I love this woman. I'm in. Like whatever this is, like I know I love it." Those are my goals when I get older. Like I want to be that lady, you know, with or without the nipple rings.
Totally.
But you know,
Free
welcome
spirit.
home, everybody.
That's
And
so
it's so
cool.
great to be around so many people who believe some of the same things as you do, to go to big public rituals that are hundreds of people, you know, are doing the same thing. It's so powerful. It's so moving. It's really life-changing.
That's cool. What area of the country do you live in right now?
I live in Ohio.
You're in Ohio.
Yeah.
Well, if you come to New York, you have to come to the shop.
Definitely.
You have an open invitation to come and hang out with us.
Definitely.
We would love it.
Yeah, promise.
Good, good. So what's next for you? You doing another book after this, or you taking a break, or?
So I'm taking a break right now,
Okay.
but you know, another thing I talk about in the book is that I get downloads, I get ideas all the time. I think a lot of us get ideas. A lot of us artists are kind of like, ooh, what about this color? What about this shape? Or what about this animal? You know, we're always thinking like that. The ideas are always coming to us, and especially in between like sleep and waking, that like little liminal space, and even in a shower, you know, the ideas come.
Absolutely.
And so I'm taking notes on a book. We'll see what happens. I've already taught a couple of workshops about it, and people are asking for the book, but I don't know if there's a whole book there yet, or if it's a class or what, but I will say just stay tuned. I'll figure it out eventually.
Cool. Are you still doing the fire dancing?
Yeah, you know, it's winter, so it's our down season. And, you know, after a busy summer, that's okay. You know,
How did you get involved in that?
well, it was, I met a guy who did it at a pagan gathering, a witchy gathering, and we fell in love. And I had been doing the ribbon dancing from my godmother Penny Goody for years at the Renaissance Festival, just for fun.
Uh-huh.
And so I knew some of the moves. Some of the moves like came really easily and quickly. And then I lit on fire, and I have to say it was addicting. You know, when you light on fire, you hear like the sound of the fire. It like kind of takes away all your presence of mind. Like it removes your ego. You're there in your fight or flight, but you have to stay and be like, okay, I know what I'm doing. And I feel like a lot of like scary stuff is like that, you know, whether you have like overthinking in your mind or something you're intimidated by, you just have to be like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I practice this. And so I started doing the fire dancing, and we toured across the country in a school bus that was outfitted like an RV for 2 years, doing festivals. Like we would roll into the street, like just some street, and I'd be like, hey, fire marshals, my name is Astrea. I know how to use a fire extinguisher, and I'm a fire dancer, and we're not trouble. And they'd be like, okay, whatever, I don't care. And yeah, no problems ever happened with that kind of stuff, really. And you know, we would just get enough money to go to the next town and then fire dance there. It was a really kind of romantic lifestyle, but you know, it was one of those things like I really wish it was a little bit more sustainable to do, you know, that kind of stuff, because it was, you know, we were living on ramen for a lot of the time.
It's so interesting. I mean, you're the first fire dancer that I know. So
Oh,
thanks.
oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's always just fascinating, and how natural the course of things evolved, right? You go to the pagan events, you had a history of ribbon dancing, which led to romance and fire dancing, and you love that and it's creative expression.
Yeah. And now I have my own group. We're very artsy. We're very like, we do what we want. That's our motto. So it's one of those things like, we're so weird too. We're like the weirdest fire dancers probably, because we use like this really passionate music that not everyone else uses. We use costumes, we do face paints, we do like these beautiful crowns, we make our own fire tools. And one of the things I discuss in the book is that I always thought, like when I was paying my way through grad school with fire dancing, they would want some like corporate fire dancer, like, you know, regular person, like I look clean and, you know, whatever. But no, they wanted the weirdo in me to come out and fire dance with them. Every invitation I got, I asked them to be sure. I was like, okay, so do you want to play the music? Like, do you want, I can bring music, or I can be in the background? And they were like, no, you bring the music, you're front and center. We're going to announce you to everybody and you're going to put on a show. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll bring it then. And, and we certainly did.
I love that. I think that's so, you know, I think that's worth talking about, because growing up, I know oftentimes I felt like I was not necessarily in any box to fit in. I felt like a little outsider or weird, or my interests were weird. And, you know, I played with tarot when it was like, what is that? You know, and I think a lot of people in our community can relate to that. And like you've mentioned numerous times, like, oh, I'm so nerdy. I can totally relate to that. Like, you know, but now it's all of those interests that are so unique and so intuitively special to us, that are our natural gifts, that have led us to where we are now. And now it's actually like a community of misfit toys, the island of misfit toys, that everybody, that's the beauty of our uniqueness, and part of the celebration of metaphysics, and like a power greater than ourselves that just kind of define who we are, and those unique gifts that we're not all the same. So I think that is magic. And thank God for the weirdos.
I know. And you know, I was thinking earlier, you mentioned something about like having the courage to put yourself out there. And I just wonder, like, wouldn't you be really sad if one of your favorite artists said that, you know?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you be sad if your favorite movie maker like never put out their art, you know, never, what if that your favorite musician was like, oh, I'm feeling shy, I don't want to put it out, maybe it's not good enough, but like everyone loves it. So you really can't predict what's going to happen, and you know, you'll probably land somewhere in the middle, you know. That's okay, you know. It's not like a race to have the most popularity. It's just that beautiful expression, and then so many people resonate with it, because I felt like that too, and I really had to change that way of thinking inside of me, like to bring out that courage, and that's what I want to encourage in other people as well.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful, everything that you're doing and your path and your experience. It's so unique, and yet I can find it so relatable in so many ways, even though our paths have been so different. And I think that's a beautiful thing about our entire community. I mean, I know that, you know, once I started aging and getting into corporate America, because I grew up in Long Island, but I worked in Manhattan, I worked in advertising sales for like 20 plus years, and all of that unconventional weirdness fell by the wayside, because it was almost like I'm packing that away with my childhood things. And then I was like doing the things that society expected of me, like a robot, you know, the movie WALL-E, like, and my soul was dead and I was empty inside. And when I was going through that that period of like, oh, I need to reinvigorate my life, and made major life changes, that's when I started taking up my astrology classes again. And a Reiki master, it was a massage therapist that used Reiki on me because I was suffering anxiety. And I go, what did you do? And she goes, well, I did Reiki. So like that began my Reiki journey. So, you know, it's, and when I left my corporate America career with Dina to start the apothecary, people were looking at me like I was insane. And they were like, are you having a nervous breakdown? Like, what do you mean you're going to sell rocks? So like, you know, but like, I could have taken the more conservative, safer route and said, oh, I'm just going to get another advertising job. Like, but it was like a leap of faith. But we knew the vision that we had, that we believed in. We said, we got to go for it. So here we are 5 years later.
And that's so beautiful. I just love that so much. I think that that's like what you're talking about with the corporate job. That's the trap that a lot of people fall into, is like, I'm too busy. I have to conform at work. So, you know, I don't have a lot of personal expression at work. And it really does feel like a chokehold. Like I was just doing this, naturally, but because I had a corporate job as well, like working in an environmental laboratory, and it was so painful. It was so conformist. It was so strict and narrow, and like, fit in this box. Smush it down, you know. It was bad. But a lot of people fall into that trap of like the world's too busy for them right now, and stuff, and so things do fall by the wayside. But what I really emphasize all the time is the joyous return. Yes, do the work, but return to what makes you happy, what fulfills you, what fills your cup, what helps you feel just like that spiritual feeling of overflowing. Whether it's creativity, rituals, spells, buying rocks at Amityville Apothecary, you know, whatever it is, like, follow that joy, because, and don't forget that, you know, come back to it as soon as you realize you're off the track with it.
I love that, the joyous return, because, you know, I just remembered all the things that I liked when I was a kid. And that was the joyous return. It was just to fuel my soul. It wasn't with any agenda. I was just like, I want to do something for me, you know, because I would give and give and give. And then you can't pour from an empty cup. So creatively, especially as a Libra, I wanted to just reinvigorate myself with like some, I don't know, aesthetic beauty, I think, or like interest, you know. But I think when I advise people and they're in a rut, I do say, like, well, what's something that you've always just done because it brings you joy? Usually it's rooted in childhood, which are our innate gifts and our interests from like that inner child seeking to be awoken again. So I saw somebody wrote a comment, and my vision is creativity through magic was my aha moment that my makeup could be magic. All right, that's beautiful. So
absolutely, yeah. You know who wrote the foreword, right? Michael Hughes. I mean, they know that, but yeah, or not Michael Hughes. I'm sorry.
Magic.
Yeah. Glam Magic. Michael, the Glam Witch. So, he is Michael Herkes. I got my Michaels mixed up, excuse me. So yeah, and he is like so fabulous. Like his makeup and his the way he dresses. He was my first pick for the forward, because I was like, you are walking arts. You are art. You just transcend arts. Even. And I was so honored that he said yes. So yeah, makeup is magic. Fashion is magic. The way you style yourself is definitely magic. And you can put a lot of intention into that. And it's not just glamour. It's like authentic expression of it as well. You know, glamour is like a fun, you know, a bit of makeup to wear as well. But yeah, so definitely.
I totally agree. We have one of our staff named Vinny, who is a beloved member of our community. He is a licensed esthetician, and he created a brand called Hex Cosmetics. And we're just like, Vinny, we need products. So he's developed these amazing lip glosses. He has skin toner. He just released a new eyeshadow palette. And, you know, it's just beautiful to see him flourish, because it's all organic and just beautiful evolution. And it incorporates everything that we do at the shop with his own that's his manifestation. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I would rather buy from Vinny than
Yeah,
Sephora any day.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. His stuff is beautiful. So Hex Cosmetics is his brand. And
Oh,
we sell it at the shop and he sells it directly. So, I
nice.
think, Dina and I are kind of metaphysical pushers. Like when people come in and for their personal development journey, we're just like, all right, spread your wings, go. Like if there's like
Yeah.
scratching the surface, like just go do more of that. And
Yes.
don't be afraid to fail. Like you can try and
Yeah.
then you'll find out where you meet resistance and stick with the stuff that feels right. And if it doesn't, then you can always pivot and just make those adjustments. But you have to go. You have to start. And then
Yeah.
you create the momentum.
Yeah, there are a lot of witches who do magic in their heads, in their minds only. They just like think about it. But I really am a big advocate for doing the external work, like raising the energy, being in your body, and then just using the herbs. And if you look at the goddess Hecate, ancient Greek goddess of magic and witchcraft, like she rules over so many herbs, and always see her in these active poses, and she's doing all these actions in myth and lore. So I think taking action is a huge part of magic. So I would recommend you to, yes, go out there and do the thing.
Yeah. Cool. Who are the deities that you like to work with most?
Well, I love her. And I love Athena. She helped me get through graduate school. If you're in school, college, whatsoever, like she will really help you study and learn and ace a few tests. I had a 4.0 GPA in grad school, which is
That's
pretty hard.
amazing.
I thank her for that. We worked together for a lot of that. I had an altar for her going that whole time.
Wow.
I also really love Hestia, the goddess of the hearth. She's just kind of like the home fire girl for me. She keeps the home fires burning, which is really important because, I think having a stable home life can help you ground, especially if you're an air sign like we are. Having a stable home life can help you ground and grow some roots. For a long time, I was just blowing in the wind,
Right.
So having those nourishing home moments, like the home cooked meals, whether you make them or somebody else, like I don't cook when I'm by myself. I cook for other people though.
Right.
Yeah. That she really helps me a lot too. And Dionysus too. I've seen Dionysus dancing around the bonfire at one of the pagan gatherings that I go to, the witchy gatherings. And that was the year where there was just so much drumming, so much dancing. There was some drinking of alcohol as well, which he is known for. He rules over that as well.
Yeah.
And the whole divine madness, the ecstasy you get from just like experiencing like the joy of the world, and dancing is such a joyful activity. I think those are like my top 4 Greek gods that I work with.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm wondering if anybody that's on the live has any questions.
Yeah. Any questions?
Before we wrap up, we have about 5-6 minutes left.
I'm so glad everyone's here. Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Our group is wonderful. Like during the pandemic, especially when everybody was housebound, we started a practice of going live every night. Every night we would just go live for an hour, and then it fostered such a beautiful community of all over the country and all over the world. And we're really blessed and fortunate with like a really fantastic group of like-minded people who have found each other. So it's nice. And now you're part of that.
Yeah, I'm so happy.
Yeah. So you mentioned Athena. We, during our expansion, we're running out of space, and then some space in the historical building next to our main building was opening up after it had been dormant for like 10 plus years. So we opened next door our bookstore. So that's the Athenaeum. And its name is derived from Athena, which the Athenaeum is bookstore, or book library. Yeah, so that's where we have. Oh my God, you have the golden owl. Yeah, I love it.
Little owls. Yeah, she's always like behind the book. whenever I have, this kind of a talk. And I don't know if you can see it. Kathy is right here. But
I love it.
yeah, I love it too. But like, yeah, the Athenaeum, that's amazing. And I think that's so special. Like, I really want to visit that.
Definitely. So Rye says it's not a question, but she loves your makeup.
Oh, thank you.
Rye also does makeup. She's specializing in like enhancing her metaphysical practice and like doing readings and stuff, but she's always doing makeup on her social media. So
Oh,
yes,
lovely.
like-minded folks.
Yeah.
So if you had parting words for our audience, what would it be as it relates to creativity and magic?
I would say, if you've ever only dreamed of being an artist, that's how all artists start being artists, is they think about it. They're like, what if I did this? I really like this color. I really like this idea. I really like this story. I really like this kind of character. And then they bring it to life. And I know it's a whole process. It might seem scary at first, but the more you do it, the more you will fall in love with it. And if you don't love it, don't do it. But if you fall in love with it, it just keeps going and unraveling. And it just like kind of opens up before your eyes. It's such a wonderful experience. Being in the flow is just amazing. It's a transcendent experience, just like, the ecstatic experience of intoxication or the divine madness. And yeah, being in the flow, working with the creative spirit, it's so magical, and I really recommend it.
It's awesome. That's great advice. Thank you for that. So Katie says, so I have your Manifesting with the Greek Gods book that I didn't realize you were a partner writer on, but do you think you would write other books about different gods?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. And I haven't pitched anything like that to my publisher, but I'm thinking about something like that just between us.
I like that. I like that. We look forward to that. Perfect. Well, it has been a pleasure getting to know you better. And you have an open invitation to come and see us anytime. So come, Ohio's not too far from New York. So
Yeah, just
anytime.
like 9 hours, something like that, I think.
Yeah, it's a road trip.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on. And thanks to everyone who showed up here and asked questions and said hello. I just want to say hi and thank you so much. Like,
Absolutely.
it's been so much fun talking with you about this book and books in general in the community. I just love that.
Yeah, and we can sell these books, and they have the book plates with her signatures included. And I really appreciate your time, and stay in touch, okay?
Yeah, definitely. And hook up with me on Instagram, especially you in Ohio. We might go to the same festivals.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Well, thank you for all that you're doing, and I wish you happy holidays.
Thanks, you too. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, then. Bye, guys.